dédé àsìkò yìí o ẹ̀yin èèyàn ìsàkété ìlú tí ń sọ̀hún sí yín gbogbo ìgbà ni mo ń foti West Africa Democracy Radio.
Shekka muna a Najeriya. Ku saurari WADR.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
Je suis à Dakar, au Sénégal, et j'écoute la WADR 94.9 FM.
West Africa Democracy.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
We are West Africa.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink, coming to you from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. First, our top stories. President Patrice Talon affirms stability in Benin as ECOWAS deploys standby force.
I want to assure you that the situation is fully under control and invite you, therefore, to resume your activities peacefully.
Swearing-in ceremony of Ivorian President Ouattara for fourth term gets underway with African leaders in participation. U.S. congressional delegation meets Nigeria's security advisor amid rising diplomatic tensions. And WDR Director Mrs. John Tomasi received Press Freedom Heroes and GPU Ambassadors Award, challenges youth to protect press values.
Build yourselves up and work not for the glamour, but for what I said before, to touch lives.
Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to all of our listeners across the sub-region. We start with the latest development in Benin, where calm and normalcy have since returned after a Sunday morning failed coup attempt by a group of soldiers who appeared on national television claiming to represent a military committee for refoundation. In the group's announcement, they claimed to have dismissed President Patrice Talon from office, whose mandate runs until April 2026. However, in a swift move, the presidency refuted the claims, confirming that the attempted takeover had been neutralized and that President Talon remained safe. The president addressed the nation directly in the evening, assuring citizens that there was no cause for alarm and that the situation was firmly under control. Augustin Coley reports.
President Patrice Talon described the incident as an attempted military coup aimed at destabilizing Benin's democratic order. He warned that such an act could have plunged the country into deep uncertainty and noted that swift, targeted measures were taken to protect the population and safeguard national institutions. The president also expressed sympathy to the families of those who lost their lives and to individuals briefly detained during the unrest. He assured the nation that security and public order have been fully restored across the country.
Un groupuscule de soldats, sous prétexte
Beninese women and men, my dear compatriots, a small group of soldiers under the pretext of false claims launched a mutiny aimed at attacking the institutions of the Republic and destabilizing our nation, thereby calling into question our democratic order. I wish to commend our army and its leaders for their sense of duty, for remaining Republican, and for their loyalty to the homeland. Together, we stood firm, retook strategic positions, and cleared the last pockets of resistance from the mutineers. Finally, I want to assure you that the situation is fully under control and invite you, therefore, to resume your activities peacefully. Security and public order will be maintained throughout the national territory to guarantee freedom of movement for all. Long live the Republic. Long live Benin.
Vive la République. Vive le Bénin.
But ECOWAS and the African Union have condemned the attempted coup. ECOWAS announced that a contingent of its standby force will be deployed to Benin to preserve constitutional order and the territorial integrity of the Republic of Benin. Meanwhile, AU Commission Chair Mahmoud Ali Yusuf reiterated the organization's zero-tolerance stance towards any unconstitutional change of government, regardless of context or justification.
Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adamsule's report and voiced by Augustin Coley. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu on Sunday praised the Nigerian military for what he called a swift and gallant response after Benin requested urgent assistance to protect its 35-year-old democracy. A statement from the president said Tinubu ordered Nigerian Air Force jets into Benin's airspace at dawn to help dislodge soldiers who had seized the national broadcaster and regrouped at the military camp. Cotonou made two formal requests for support, first for immediate air intervention to safeguard constitutional order, and later for both air assets and limited ground forces under Benin's command. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff General Olufemi Oluyede confirmed that all requests were carried out and that Nigerian troops are now on the ground in Benin to support stabilization efforts. Tinubu said the operation was conducted under ECOWAS protocols on democracy and good governance, praising the armed forces for defending constitutional rule in the region. The attempted coup comes amid a wave of military takeovers across West Africa, including in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, and most recently, Guinea-Bissau. In response to ECOWAS' announcement of its standby force to Benin, international relations expert Professor Vladimir Antwi-Danso has urged the ECOWAS to avoid what he calls a knee-jerk response in its decision to deploy a regional standby force to Benin after the recent attempted coup.
ECOWAS is always having some knee-jerk reaction. When situations happen like this, intelligence is very important, and you find out how you are going to intervene. If any of the troops that are just being rushed to Benin, the Ghanaian contingent, let's assume that we have some casualties, serious casualties, involving some senior military officers, the repercussions back home will be very bad. It looks as though they are intemperate when it comes to the point where soldiers are interfering. We must look at how the situation is calming, or what we can do to calm the situation, rather than rushing our soldiers in. Do we really have the West African standby force well established with a commandeering order? We threatened Niger, we couldn't go. Now Benin, we say we're going, and we say it's made by troops from Ghana, Nigeria. If this can be sustained, but from where I sit, I can see a problem. Will we be able to command troops to Nigeria? If it were happening in Nigeria, somebody should answer that question. We should be very careful the way we deal with things in Africa. We couldn't go to Ivory Coast when that constitutional order was being disturbed. Is it the situation where we protect our kind? Because Ouattara is a civilian, we protect our kind. There could have been a civil war in Ivory Coast the way it did in 2011. But we kept quiet, and we doffed our hats for him a fourth term in office, having tricked the constitution. That's also a coup. Mm-hmm. So we should be very careful the precedents we are setting.
International relations expert Professor Vladimir Antwi-Danso. Still on the reaction to the attempted coup in Benin, experts from across the sub-region and beyond are urging the adoption of long-term measures that not only prevent coups but also ensure that democracy truly delivers for citizens. They argue that factors such as poor governance, corruption, public mistrust, human rights abuses, and disregard for the rule of law are key drivers of coups, issues that can be effectively addressed with the right reforms. One of these voices is Desiree Asogbavi, Advocacy Advisor for Africa at the Open Society Foundation's OSF. In a recent presentation titled Roadmap in 7 Points, Asogbavi outlined urgent steps that regional and continental bodies should take to curb the growing wave of coups. It talks about one of them, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism.
If I recall well, the African peer review mechanism is one of the very unique mechanisms around the world by which, of course, it is still voluntary, but it's still good. The continental bodies try to evaluate different situations in order to predict whether there's a risk that come up. But where the problem comes is that there have been review followed by recommendations, because the review identify a number of possible risks and no action has been taken. So I think we need to come back to it, and it would be good that the peer review mechanism becomes somehow mandatory. They need to push all countries to subscribe to it, because if we have been doing systematic review, there are situations on which people will be stunned. Let's take Benin. Benin has have over the last few years, very good economical progress, but democracy has been messy. Like all the powers, way to get to the power has been locked. Everybody knows that. Not long time ago, there had been a brutal change overnight of the constitutions without consultations with political forces. There have been debates even by which the votes on the new constitutions may have been tricked. Those are the informations that you can hear from people in the country. So nothing has been done. I think we just need to be more serious with the way we are monitoring democracy within the continent.
Advocacy Advisor for Africa at the Open Society Foundation's Desiree Asogbavi.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere, the swearing-in of Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara for a fourth five-year term is underway in the commercial capital Abidjan. Recall Ouattara secured 89.77% of the vote, a result confirmed by the Constitutional Council on November 4. The inauguration is taking place at the Presidential Palace with vice presidents, prime ministers and senior officials from international institutions in attendance. Ouattara, first elected in 2010 and re-elected in 2015 and 2020, secured 3.76 million votes in the latest poll. Other candidates trailed far behind, including Simone Ehivet with 2.42%, Juan Donmelo with 1.97%, and Henriette Longue with 1.15%. The opposition has rejected Ouattara's fourth term as unconstitutional and accuses the government of excluding its leaders from participating in the election. We will bring you more details in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, a high-level United States congressional delegation is in Abuja for renewed security talks with Nigeria's National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu. The mission deepens earlier engagement held in Washington and comes at a time when diplomatic tensions between both countries have heightened. WDL's Usman Umar reports.
Nigeria and the United States intensified their security dialogue on Sunday as National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu hosted a visiting U.S. congressional delegation in Abuja. Ribadu, in a statement on his X handle, said the meeting builds on recent engagements in Washington, where both sides reviewed shared security priorities and areas for deeper cooperation. The delegation included U.S. Representatives Mario Diaz-Balart, Norma Torres, Scott Franklin, Juan Siscomani, and Riley Moore, with the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Richard Mills, also present. Talks focused on counter-terrorism efforts, regional stability, intelligence collaboration, and strengthening Nigeria-U.S. strategic security cooperation. Ribadu expressed optimism that the continued engagements would help build trust and reinforce joint commitments to peace and stability in the region. The meeting comes at a delicate time in relations between Abuja and Washington. Tensions have risen since U.S. President Donald Trump redesignated Nigeria as a country of particular concern over alleged religious freedom violations, a move Nigeria strongly contests, arguing that security affects citizens of all faiths and does not amount to systematic persecution. Despite the diplomatic strain, Nigeria has maintained its push for global security partnerships. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You're listening to Newslink, coming to you on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. President Patrice Talon affirms stability in Benin as ECOWAS deploys standby force. Swearing-in ceremony of Ivorian President Ouattara for fourth term gets underway with African leaders in participation. U.S. congressional delegation meets Nigeria's National Security Advisor amid rising diplomatic tensions. And still ahead in the news, WDL Director Mrs. Joan Tomasi receives Press Freedom Heroes and GPU Ambassadors Award, challenges youth to protect press values. We don't have the press review and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org and do join our live streams on YouTube and Facebook. Let's turn our attention now to the press, where the Gambia Press Union is urging the government to reconsider certain media regulations, including the recently enacted Criminal Offences Act 2025, which mirrors provisions from the old Criminal Code on false publications and broadcasting and the Cybercrime Bill 2023. The call came during the union's 10th National Journalism Awards, a night celebrating a decade of excellence in journalism and recognizing the vital role of the media in promoting democracy and accountability. WDL's Banjul correspondent Sang Donald Mendy files his report.
The union says these laws undermine press freedom and is calling on authorities to consult with media stakeholders to develop a framework that balances national security with journalistic independence. While the awards celebrated outstanding reporting in the investigative journalism, human interest features, and community reporting, the event also highlighted the continuing risks journalists face in the Gambia. Aissatou Keita, president of the Gambia Press Union, emphasized the importance of protecting media freedom while ensuring professional standards.
In several societies around the world, including in the Gambia, professional journalism has over the years shown a positive influence on our democratic dispensation, civic engagement, transparency, and accountability in government. Stories that span several journalism bits and address critical governance issues like promoting the rule of law and also shedding light on transitional justice issues.
Representing the government, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, Minister of Information, Communication and Broadcasting, said,
"We understand that press freedom is not a favor to be granted, but a right to be protected. And we remain committed to fostering an environment where journalists can work without fear, intimidation, or undue interference. At the same time, we also champion responsible journalism."
Since the 2017 political transition, press freedom in the Gambia has expanded. New media outlets have emerged and journalists now operate with less direct state interference. Yet challenges remain. Intimidation, online harassment, and occasional interference from security forces continue to be reported. Outdated defamation and sedition laws still cast a shadow over newsrooms, while financial pressures make sustaining independent reporting an ongoing struggle. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Still on the Gambia Press Union 10th National Journalism Awards, one of the major highlights of the night was the recognition of the station director of West Africa Democracy Radio, Mrs. Agnes John Tomasi, who received the Press Freedom Heroes and GPU Ambassadors Award. In her remarks, she encouraged young reporters to uphold the core principles of journalism.
Well, for me, based on what I have seen and continue to see, my advice to young journalists is, number one, continue to read. Journalism is about developing yourself as well. Read, research, build yourselves up, and work not for the glamour, but for what I said before, to touch lives, to change lives, to contribute to development. Young journalists should prepare themselves, read, research, improve your skills, always be ready to report truthfully, factually, concretely, concisely, and be ready also to sacrifice. This work is a work of sacrifice. Journalism is not a work of 8 to 10 or 8 to 4 or 8 to 5. It's a continuous process. It's like building. And until that building is finished, we do not stop. So there should be passion for the job, love for the job. As we say for other professions like nurses, doctors, that kind of passion is what you need in journalism. You need to love to tell stories, to love to see how your stories are impacting lives, how your stories are going towards, changing environment, bringing about solutions. So to do that, continue to read, to do your research, to write good stories, balanced, impactful stories.
Station Director of West Africa Democracy Radio, Mrs. Agnes John Tomasi.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
All right, we head back to Abuja as we join Usman Mar for the Newspaper Review.
This is the press review from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We begin with Daily Trust newspaper. Nigeria has recently been recognized internationally for its strides in digital governance. At the Open Governance Partnership Global Summit in Spain, the country won 2 awards, one as the overall global winner in digital governance and another as the top performer in Africa and the Middle East. The paper also says this recognition highlights the government's commitment alongside the National Information Technology Development Agency and civil society partners to strengthen transparency, citizen engagement, and digital innovation in public administration. In another report, the Daily Trust also looked at the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, that is NEITI. It reveals that Nigeria lost about $3.3 billion US worth of crude oil between 2023 and 2024 due to theft and pipeline vandalism. The report emphasized the persistent challenges in the oil sector despite regulatory reforms, and of course, this underlines the urgent need for stricter oversight and accountability in resource management. And that's the size of our package for this afternoon as I return you back to the studios.
Many thanks, Usman Umar.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, we return to Benin, where an attempted coup was swiftly foiled on Sunday, shaking one of West Africa's more stable democracies. A group of soldiers briefly seized the national broadcaster, claiming to have removed President Patrice Talon from office, but the government pushed back quickly, calling the move an illegal takeover attempt. The incident has raised fresh questions about the region's growing vulnerability to military uprisings and the political pressures facing Benin as it heads towards a leadership transition next year. To help us unpack what happened, what we know so far, and the wide implications for West Africa's fragile democratic landscape, we're joined by Morgan Ashogba, an expert in geopolitics.
It's important to point out the fact that Benin Republic has been one of the states that have stood by the ECOWAS in its vision of regional integration when the institution was going through a serious headache when it comes to its members. And aside that, the institution, especially when it comes to good neighboring, let's say, involvement, whether it is Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, so far, the institution has been doing great, and Benin Republic has been maintaining a certain level of good neighbor relationship with the ECOWAS states members. So all these factors put together could explain the vivid response that ECOWAS had when it comes to the situation on the ground with Benin Republic. And obviously, the request from Benin Republic might have also played a key role.
What ECOWAS said clearly in one of its earlier statements issued on Sunday was that it was deploying a standby force to Benin to support the National Guard and make sure that the government of Patrice Talon, or should I say constitutional rule in Benin, is maintained. Now, why that was welcomed, in the case of Niger, there was a serious backlash. I mean, what's the contrast between these two cases now?
So the major issue here is definitely the willingness of the state to welcome foreign powers within its territory. The principle of sovereignty is key as far as international relation is concerned. So whenever any international organization intends to move in to rescue a state, the state must definitely give the go-ahead. And it appears clearly that when it comes to Niger and other states, it is not, let's say, granted per se that they were ready to receive foreign state armies within their territories.
Now, do you think that ECOWAS's decision or action on Sunday to intervene in Benin will deter any such attempt in member states?
I do believe that ECOWAS is learning from the past events and its mistakes. And this is definitely a strong message to any military faction that might be willing to contribute into destabilizing various states of ECOWAS. And this might also help some of the states to give more enforcement to the vision of regional integration promoted by ECOWAS. Anyway, I think the regional body is learning and the regional body is acting, and experts are definitely contributing into displaying a new dimension of the body. However, the state, taken individually, still have a key role to play in making this a reality.
Now, what are some of these roles that the state will have to play individually and collectively to make this a reality, Mr. Morgan?
The first one remains the level of sovereignty that the state are willing to give to the regional body in terms of acting. It is important to remind that the body can only act per the room that are made by the individual state to the body. The second thing is to take seriously into consideration the expectation of the people and to strengthen the level of communication when it comes to getting the people to understand what is ECOWAS and what can ECOWAS do, so that the expectations of the people should not be extremely higher than what ECOWAS can do. If there is no communication, this cannot happen. The last thing will definitely be a very strong level of cooperation when it comes to economical aspect, when it comes to military aspect, in dealing efficiently with this scourge of terrorism and groups that are destabilizing the peace within the Gulf of Guinea and the Sahel. And lastly, ECOWAS should be open to discussion even with bodies and states that seems to not share the vision of the body.
Morgan Otsogba is an expert in geopolitics. And to sport news, Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah has come under renewed scrutiny after his furious reaction to being left out of recent starting lineups, with former Manchester United striker Wayne Rooney warning that the Egyptian is destroying his legacy at Anfield. Salah, who has failed to start Liverpool's last 3 matches, openly criticised the club and manager Arne Slot following Saturday's dramatic 3-3 Premier League draw with Leeds United. In a rare public outburst, the 32-year-old said he felt he had been made a scapegoat for the Reds' poor start to the season, claiming he had been thrown under the bus. The Egyptian star, who signed a 2-year contract extension in April, remains one of Liverpool's greatest ever players, having scored 250 goals in all competitions over 8 seasons and helping the club win 2 Premier League titles. But his form this term has dipped sharply. He has managed just 5 goals in 19 appearances across all competitions. Rooney, speaking on his podcast, criticized both the outburst and its timing, insisting Salah is risking long-term damage to his reputation. Liverpool, who stormed to the title last season, have struggled to replicate that form in the current campaign. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting in Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Mustafa Sek for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, at WADR English. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a repeat broadcast of our health program, Well Buddy. I am Imo Edad. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy